Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Words of Wisdom podcast. For episode 2, we are joined today by many say she is the martial arts queen, a very special guest who I worked with on a film in Germany. Her name is the none other Cynthia Rothrock. She has a lot of achievements. Some of the most noticeable ones are five-time undefeated world karate champion, a black belt Hall of Fame inductee, as well as 5 black belts across Chinese and Korean martial arts, with an 8th degree black belt in Tang Soo Do, International Sports Hall of Famer, action star who starred in over 60 movies. Cynthia, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Thank you so much for being here, and I can't wait to get started with it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I'm honored to be your second show.
I was asking my dad. I was like, Dad, I really want Cynthia on the show. You think she'll accept it? And he's like, oh, just go for it, buddy. I'm like, oh, cool. Sent the text message, and now it's here. So Cynthia, we've only got an hour on the clock today. I want to get right into it because I know
Yes.
you've had a fantastic career that's still going, and I have so many questions I have to ask. So, guys, as always, just a heads up, my iPad is here with notes. So if I'm ever looking down, I am just looking at the notes. So, Cynthia, I've heard that you started training martial arts when you turned 13. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
What made you join martial arts, especially because I know during your time, fighting in particular was a more men dominant area. To be a young girl going into fight school, how was that like, and what made you join?
Well, it definitely was unusual back then because back then there weren't that many martial arts schools. You're lucky if there was like one in a 50-mile radius. And my actually how I got started is my friends' parents were studying Tung Soo Do at Scranton Karate
Yeah,
School. And they used to own a health club. So on Sunday they would come in and that they would clean the equipment, they would close the gym, and my friend and I would go, and it was such a big carpeted room. We'd practice cartwheels
yeah,
and rolls and fun. And then the parents came in with their Tung Soo Do uniforms on and they started practicing, and I was like, wow, what is that? And they're like, yeah, it's martial arts. I said, what is that? And they're like, we learn to defend ourselves with our hands and feet. And I thought, wow, that's unusual. I never heard of that. I would love to do that. So I went home and I told my mom, I said, I want to learn martial arts. She's like, what? And she was used to me at this time, everything. And when I said, you learn self defense, she thought, wow, that's a great idea. So she took me down, and it was a hard journey in the beginning, but I persevered to it, and
yeah.
yeah,
The rest is history.
it's history.
I can't imagine just, if I'm an owner or something and you've got this young person coming in and, fast forward a couple of years, they're now a star, they're black belts. I mean, the owner of that gym must feel honored to have coached you.
Well, actually, yeah, they didn't coach me, the owners of the gym, but when they took me to the karate school, I had the same teacher, and
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean that I, he has passed on, but I think he
Mm.
was very proud that he started my journey in martial arts, and definitely was my base for all the other styles is to learn Tung Soo Do, which focuses on kicking. So
Yeah.
so happy I started with that because I'm known for my kicks, and that gave me like a really great kicking base.
Yeah. And fast forward 5 months, I believe 5 months, you joined your first competition, right? And came second?
Yeah, yeah, I was an orange belt and just tested for my orange belt. And at
Yeah.
that time, competitions, they had one division for women. That was it, women. And I was nervous, but my instructor made me go into competition. And I remember traveling down to Pittsburgh, which was like about an 8-hour drive from us from Scranton.
Yeah.
Big tournament, and I went in, and there were a lot of black belts, white belts, whatever. And a black belt took first, I took second, and a black belt took third. And at that time, I thought, wow, if I could beat black belts, and I've only been training for 5 months, I am really going to train really, really hard. It's the first time I've ever won anything. First time I brought a trophy home. So that kind
Yeah.
of lit my fire, is to say, I want to keep competing. I want to get better and better and better. And I think from that day on, I just, any tournament I can compete in, I went in.
Yeah. No, when I heard of that, I was like, I mean, first of all, wow, like, I feel especially in Hong Kong, I know they're more strict with if you're a black belt, you can only go up against black belt. If you're, I don't know, blue belt, you can only go within one up, one down. And I remember my friend, he was, I can't remember, maybe it was a green belt, and he was sparring someone who was two belts above him, and he was telling me, he was like, "Oh man, I'm so scared. I'm so nervous. I'm so anxious." And to find out that you were an orange belt fighting black belts, not only competing with them but winning and coming second, like how did you feel in the moment when you're like, "Oh, wow, this is a black belt."
Yeah, I was nervous. It didn't matter. I could have been competed against all white belts. It's still, I was
Mm,
so nervous because it was my first competition. I didn't know what to expect. And, you know, yeah, that's all I can say is that it gave me a lot of confidence, though. It gave me a lot of
yeah.
confidence that I can be, from that day on, I set a goal that I want to be the best in this sport.
Yeah. How So, how many years did it take from that point on before you became a world champion?
It maybe about 6 or 7 years because I competed locally, and what
Mm,
happened is there was a tournament in New Jersey, and it was called the Playboy Tournament. It was really weird. I don't know why it was like affiliated with the Playboy Club, but anyway, all the best of the best were competing at this tournament, and since
yeah.
it was in New Jersey, right next door to Pennsylvania, I went, and at this time I was competing locally, and we
Mm,
were ranked by Karate Illustrated magazine, and I was number one in my region. But now this is at all regions coming together to compete, and I went there and I won. And people were like, "Who is this girl? That she beat the number one girl. Like, who is she?" And
yeah.
then people were talking to me, and they say, "You need to travel the circuit." Right. So then that was in 1980. And then in 1981, my goal was for 5 years to be undefeated in professional competitions. It was only going to like these A-rated events where the best of the best were there. And at that time, they had to have so many of the top competitors to have an A rating. And my goal was to be undefeated for 5 years. So I went to Hong Kong. Even before I did my movies, I trained in Taiwan. I went to mainland China in 1982 to train for a month with the Chengdu Wushu team. And at that time, it was crazy because, China wasn't even open up to foreigners,
Yeah.
so communistic. But I was doing everything I could to be the best and just keep training, training, training. And I reached that goal after 5 years. And then I was going to retire from competition because when you say 5 times, it's not just competing 5 times, it's competing 5 years. It's 5 years in a row. So
Yeah.
I think during that time, I must have competed over, in the 5 years over, 400 tournaments, so was undefeated. I thought that was a record nobody's going to be able to beat. And then the Hong Kong movie, I got the offer to do Yes Madam in 1985, with Michelle Yeoh. So it was a great transition to me because I was like, well, I've devoted like these 5 years to competing professionally. Now,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? And it just kind of, you know, fell right into place that now you're going to transition doing movies.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, because I know if UFC, boxing, five-time champion, usually you have like 30 fights, 40 fights, but 400 around.
Oh yeah,
That
I have like probably about 2,000 trophies, and I had them at my mom's house, and my mom was kind of like, "Well, what am I going to do with these?" Because then I moved to California, and I said, "Well, you got to keep them." So she actually built a shed to put all these trophies in. And when my mom passed away, and I went home, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all these trophies?" Because then I've had about another. I probably had about 1,000 of them in California, and I had 1,000 here, and they went to a lot of karate schools. Like my friend took his van and he put a ton of them in his school. My other son from Jersey came down, and some of them were like my mom didn't take care of them. So the shed kind of got rotted underneath. So some of them we ended up throwing like a big whole scrap metal thing to come and take it away. So yeah, I didn't know what to do with them all then, but yeah, so I'd have to say, I don't know, somewhere on the internet I have pictures of standing in the shed there cleaning it out with all the trophies.
I mean, if that is not like, one form of success in a sport, cleaning your own personalized shed filled with trophies, I don't know what
The funny thing is, back then, when you won, especially when the grand champion, I have a lot of 6-foot trophies. So they were huge and they were broke and pieces were missing, and some of the plaques were up. But yeah, they gave heavy metal 5 to 6 foot trophies back then. So we're not talking like these little ones. We're talking
those little medals, they're about that big.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn. So, okay, so you're 5. So you're going from 1-time champion, 2-time champion, 3, 4, 5. How does your mindset switch? Because there was something, I'm not sure if maybe you've seen, The Last Dance by Michael Jordan. He said that, every single time he went to the final, it became that bit harder because, I mean, you've already won once, twice, 2 times. How did you stay locked in and continue to just, because you're not just any fighter, and I know when I'm playing against, for example, in rugby, if we're playing against the champions, we're like, okay, guys, these are the champions. Let's bring this energy. Let's really show them, and I mean, you went 400 or so fights undefeated. What was your mindset in that time?
Yeah, well, at that time, when I went professionally, I was doing forms and I was doing weapons. I used to fight, but up until professional, they were my 2 favorite things to do. So it was too hard to do all 3 because I'd be there at 8 in the morning till midnight, So I focused on the forms and weapons. But it was very stressful because you don't want to lose, and everybody's gunning for you. Everybody wanted, like, that would be like such history if someone beat Cynthia Rothrock, so that's why I kept going to different countries and training. And during those 5 years, I trained literally about 6 hours a day, every day. And every time I won, instead of saying, oh yeah, it's so easy for me to win, I would go, okay, I got to train harder. I got to train harder, So for those 5 years, I didn't do anything but martial arts training. And maybe I did like some gymnastics or some, I did a little bit of dance and a little bit of yoga to get more flexibility. But I wouldn't do anything like skiing because I think, oh, what if I break my knee? And we would go to travel to a different state or something. I would find the local martial arts school and train there. So all I literally did was sleep, eat, and do martial arts during those 5 years, because it was very stressful for me, because what if someone did beat me and I'd be like, I have this goal,
Mm-hmm.
And when we were competing, I would do these moves that were very hard, like very extreme balance, that it's so easy. I could have if I would have just lost my balance, I would have lost, because everybody was waiting to see if someone can beat me after, these 5 years. So I think when I did reach that goal, it was kind of like, whew, I did it,
Sigh of relief.
Yeah, definitely. But then I missed it. Even today, when I just came back, I was at the Long Beach Internationals, right? And I was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I'm watching the competition and I'm going, even to this day, it's still like, gosh, I'd still like to get back in there and do something.
Cynthia's coming back.
I know, right?
How did you have is there one fight or maybe 2 fights in particular where you were like, man, that was close. That really steps out more than any other fight?
Well, fighting, yeah. the first time I competed against a black belt, when I had to fight this girl, everybody, she was really, really tough, and she was way bigger than me. And everybody was saying, "Oh, she's going to kill you. She's going to kill you." Right. And I was in
Mm.
the bathroom, and these girls came in, and they're like, "Yeah, she's going to kick that girl's ass," you know? And I was like, "Oh my God," you know, because I didn't look like a fighter, you know, and she really looked like really tough like a fighter. And I was so nervous. And when I got out there, within the first second, she hit me in the eye with the back fist. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is going to be so embarrassing. I'm going to like lose like in like a second," because it intimidated me. And she hit me. And at this time, we weren't fighting with safety equipment. You were fighting with bare knuckle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you might have had a shin guard on. That was about it. And it was light contact. And ooh, wow, she almost like knocked me out with that. And then something kicked in, like this adrenaline that I and my teacher was saying, "Look, at just kick her with your kicks. They're strong. Get her, and she'll stay away." Right. And that's what I did. And I got so confident. It was really weird. I was doing like jumping front kicks, and you don't do that in sparring because that's so easy to get blocked and get knocked
Yeah.
down. But I won. I ended up winning the match, like 2-1 or 3-1, whatever
Yeah.
the score was. But that, yeah, I remember that one being tough. And it was my first black belt one. And then I had to fight the grand champion. And then I
Wow.
was even more scared. Oh, it was crazy. But then I won that. But it was fun. But I always didn't. I felt like I didn't really want to get hurt. I went home with a
Mm.
big black eye. And you always had like some kind of injury because there was no safety equipment back then. So I think then when I decided just to concentrate in form and weapons, and what that is, for those that don't know, it's kind of like, think of gymnastics when they do floor exercise, but you're
Yeah.
doing karate movements. Instead of it being like a nice flowing dancing routine, you're doing it ferociously. Like if someone, you're defending yourself against imaginary attackers. And the same thing with weapons. You have a really sharp, weapon in your hand. So I focused on those two pretty much the the
Yeah.
professional years.
Wow. That I take my hat off to that. That is wow. And for people who don't fight, because whenever you go into the ring, you're actively thinking, if I make one mistake, this person can take my head off. So the fact that you're able to stay cool, stay calm, stay collected, not let that fear inside of you where, I remember my first spar, the guy hit me and I just instantly, you're like shelling up and trying not to die. So the fact that I mean,
Well,
black belt,
I gotta tell you
champion.
though, like even though that was hard and scary, I had so much more injuries from doing movies in Hong Kong. I mean, that was worse. That was like full contact competition, you know? And uh, uh, yeah, it was just, yeah, I had so, like when you were saying that, like that brought mind, like getting hit in the face and getting my ears split, like inner ears split open, and then coming back to set and trying to guard my head. But yeah, I have to tell you, in my entire life, my toughest days was shooting movies in Hong Kong and doing your own stunts.
Yeah, guys, let's just say the Hong Kong film industry back then, they were built different. They don't believe in stunt doubles. They don't believe in, let's keep the actors healthy and fresh, and it's like we want it real.
Like you
So
see Jackie Chan's movies when he has the bloopers of all the injuries he has. That's just typical. That's a
yeah,
typical movie in Hong Kong, that you go through all those injuries.
I guess you don't really need a makeup artist then. So not fast forward, but I remember you were saying, I think it was on your episode with Scott, you were saying how for that fifth championship in particular, you were going America, Hong Kong, and then finally, not finally, but after you won your belt, you finished the movie, then they offered you a 3-movie contract. I know you've already said that transition was, it's sort of like it was just meant to be. But how was it mentally, you're going to be moving country, you're going to be away from your friends, your family, you have to learn a new language. Take us through that process of that transition.
Well, how that happened was the movies. It's not something I really sought or I thought, oh, I'm going to be an action star. I
Yeah.
When I used to study Ying Jiao Pai in New York City with Shum Liang, after the class, he would take us to Chinatown and I would watch Hong Kong movies, and you're talking back in the late 70s. And I remember seeing my first movie was Snake and the Eagle's Shadow with Jackie Chan, so I kind of grew up on Jackie Chan and I just loved the way they fought. So fast forward, I moved to California and I'm on the West Coast demonstration team, which was the premier, was really the beginning of demonstration teams, in the world. Ernie Reyes created this. And since the team members were so good and I was on the team, Inside Kung Fu magazine called Ernie and said, hey, Corey Yun is here, who, everybody knows Corey Yun is a fabulous director, and he's looking for a guy. He's looking for the next Bruce Lee. Bring the guys down. And they said, well, can we bring the girls too? And they said, yeah, you can, but we're looking for a guy. So we all went down and I had to do some form fighting, self-defense, weapons. And Corey Yun says, I want to go with the girl. So off to Hong Kong I went. First film was 1985 with Michelle Yeoh. And I didn't expect it. I thought I'd just do one movie. I really didn't think I was going to continue and do a lot of movies. I thought, wow, here's something unusual in Cynthia Rothrock's life. She's doing a movie in Hong Kong. I was thinking it was going to be like Enter the Dragon. I didn't know what to expect, what to go in. Never did a film before. And then that movie, like you said, I had to get my goal. So I would say to Yun Kuei, I need to go back to Minneapolis to compete. Okay, go back, compete, come back. Then I have to go to Atlanta, Georgia to compete. So then when that year finished, and Yes, Madam took 8.5 months. So it was a long time that I was there.
Wow.
The movie was a hit. And I wasn't going to do competition anymore. So it's like, then Golden Harvest said, we want to offer you a 3-picture deal. So at that point, when they offered me the contract, that's when I realized, wow, this is what I want to do now. This is like pretty cool, doing action movies and getting paid for it. I love it, So that's kind of when the transition is that, I'm going to do action pictures. And, I ended up staying in Hong Kong for 3 years. And then they wanted to shoot, China O'Brien, which was shot in America because they wanted to get into the American film industry.
Sweet. Was it just you who came, or did you bring any family? Did you bring any friends? Did you have friends here?
No, I went myself. I didn't know what to expect. I was the only one there. People didn't speak English. I didn't, when I was in, you're looked back in like 1985, right? Hardly anybody spoke English on the set. Michelle was the only one really that spoke a lot of good English, so we became really good friends and she was like my translator. But I haven't had Chinese food even, like, because coming from Scranton, we didn't have Chinese restaurants. So I was accustomed to all this new living, food, fighting, staying up all night. It was a crazy world for me. But, then I knew that that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to continue to make movies.
Aside from the injuries and the physical demand of being an action star, being in action movies, how much pressure was it mentally in that time? Because, as you said earlier, they weren't even looking for a girl. They wanted a guy. And now, a girl impresses them. You're coming to Asia where, back in that time as well, it was also very male dominant industry. You're doing your first film. It goes really great. I'm sure you've probably had some people there like, why is she here? Like, we need a guy. We need a guy. Like, how did you deal with that mental pressure? And if you even felt it?
Well, I felt that more in the States. I really never felt that in Hong Kong. I felt that, I always thank God that Corey Yun, had the vision to have 2 females back then do a lead in an action movie. I think on my first movie, they were kind of like, oh my gosh, we got to be kid gloves with her and this and that. And when they saw that I would do anything, they threw at me. And I remember I had to do this kick off the wall. It took me a while to get it, but once I got it, and then they were like, okay. And then I got hit hard and I didn't complain. And I was like, yeah, fine. Cause I just thought you just do whatever they tell you to do and you do your best, so they love that. And then they respected me that, I would try my best. I would try the stunts. I would do everything, so I really, really didn't get I didn't have any problems there. It was more when I came back to the States. It was then I started doing movies and it was like, well, we can't have the female like be the victor. We got to have her. She'll fight, and then the guy will come in and save her. You know,
Mm,
even though after China O'Brien, but China O'Brien was a big hit worldwide. But at that time, really, in the United States, it wasn't as big as it was worldwide, and it wasn't until they said, okay, yeah, let's put her in Sworn to Justice as the lead, that, it started going, yes, females, can be, the leads. And, even now today, it's still the same. Like you look at how many action men stars there are and women, like there's not a whole lot.
mm. You really carved. You really carved the way for, all of those females who, I even remember, like, as a young, I was still young, but when I was younger, I would look, and regardless of the gender of, who's doing what, I would already go, wow, I think that I don't know if I'm ever gonna make it. And especially when, maybe it was the race, maybe it was the financial situation for that person. But whenever something was different to me, it just added that extra doubt in my mind. And I mean, maybe in the moment you weren't really thinking about that, but was that your goal after you got into movies to be like, you know what, I'm gonna show us women, like, you want to be an action star? Great. Let me show you how to do it. Let's roll. Let's crack on.
Well, I was kind of used to this kind of mentality because remember, I grew up in this sport that was male dominated as well.
Yeah.
So I was used to just saying, hey, they're my peers. When I competed in 1982, I was the first woman to win the weapons grand championship for the whole year. So I was number one in all of North America in weapons against the men because they never had a women's division. I always had to compete against the men.
Oh, you
So
competed with men for that.
yeah, I mean, it's the first time that
Oh.
has ever happened, and even today, there's no way that women go in competition with men in weapons. They have women's separate divisions, but back then they didn't, and it was such a feat because men didn't want a woman to win. Like, what are you doing? This girl's coming in, So I always felt that I had the pressure that I couldn't just be better than them a little bit. I had to be way better where the audience would see this and know, and I'd get a little animosity. Like I was the first woman on the cover of Karate Illustrated magazine. And
Wow.
the editor wanted to put me on it, and he had a hard time with the company owner. He's like, no, women and minorities don't sell. And he fought, and finally he put me on, and it sold out. It did really well. But even though it paved the way for women, there still wasn't a lot of women that were put on the cover.
Mm,
Same thing for films, paved the way to say, yes, a woman lead can make money, right? But it
yeah.
seemed like in Hollywood, they'd take an actress that didn't know martial arts, put her in an action film, it would tank, and then they'd go, no, we don't want to use any women, And it was kind of like the mentality. And I think it's it definitely is still like that. And you even hear like actresses, saying, oh, men get the better roles or they get more money, or, they
Mm,
start their own production companies so they can do the roles they want and play the roles they want.
yeah. I mean, that is, I'm not so sure in America, but I remember when I was younger, my parents brought me to this kung fu class, and I was like 5 or 6, and I remember that it was mainly, boys. It was mainly just, I think there were maybe 1 or 2 females, and fast forward to now, I go to Taekwondo, and in my Taekwondo gym, if let's say there are 10 people in the class, 7 of them would be female, and not just, white belts, like black belts. And I'll ask them, like, how long have you been doing this? And like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And now and then I'd ask them as well. I'd be like, really, what made you get into it? And then they'll be like, there's this, I'm not sure if but there's this action star karate girl, her name's Cynthia, and when I'm thinking of that and now interviewing you as well, I can really see, you know, how many seeds you've planted just from solely like, no, you're not going to beat me.
Right.
I can,
Yeah.
you're not
See,
going to
like
beat me.
I didn't even know that. I mean, we inspire people, you know, and I think one of the greatest things for me that I love is that I inspire people to take martial arts, male and female. Like I get a lot of men saying, "Oh, after I saw your movie, I started taking martial arts," you know. And also Scott Atkins, yeah, he said to me, you know, when I saw China O'Brien, I loved it and wanted to do movies, you know. So you don't know how you inspire people to get into martial arts, and it's something that I am such an advocate on, is that everybody should know martial arts to defend themselves, you know, because you never know when that situation is going to happen. So I love hearing that. And you're right, like today there are lot of women doing it. You know, it's funny, when I did No Retreat, No Surrender, that movie, part two, I was in Thailand, and we had this scene in the boxing gym, and the Thai people come running over and they said, "Get her, she got to get out of the ring. She got to get out of the ring. We don't let women in the ring." And they're like, "What?" And they're like arguing with them. They said, "No, absolutely not. The woman cannot go in the boxing ring." So we started practicing the scene down on the floor, right? And they saw that I could fight. And then they're like, "Okay, well, she can fight in the ring because we can see she can really fight, but she can't go through the ropes. She's got to roll underneath it." Yeah, it was really weird. So if you look at the movie, you see me roll under the rope. It's because I was a woman. I couldn't go through that, you know? I mean, there's so many, like, so many
Interesting.
that you've gone through, and now, you know, it's easier. It's a much easier time for women, you know, because it's at that time, like, it was a big fallacy. Martial arts was definitely considered a man's sport, or they didn't understand that you didn't have to be like 6 foot and weigh like 200 pounds to be able to defend yourself. You could be 5'3", petite, you know, cute, and you could still, you know, learn the technique. It's not always about, you know, the size. So
For
different world
sure.
today than it was back then, for sure.
For sure. So fast forward a few years. Oh, just before your book, by the way. I heard research that in between filming you completely tore your ACL
Yeah,
between
I did it on right after I did Yes Madam. I'm about to shoot Millionaires Express, and I went
yeah.
home for, like, I think they gave me like 2 weeks off, right, in between the movies, and I was practicing. I had a martial arts school then, so I was practicing, and I was practicing like really, really hard. And I did jump spinning hook kick, and when I came down, I heard like that, and I blew out my anterior cruciate ligament. And I went and I did no that, and also righting wrongs. When righting wrongs, it was really bad that I couldn't even kick with my right leg, so I had to change all my kicks in that movie to my left. And I thought, this is going to look terrible, because, you know, you always favor one side, you know, you always feel more dominant and strong on one side, and this is like not my good side. But the movie came out great, you know, you couldn't tell. And crazy enough, to this day, I never got it fixed, because there was always, I kept working then, and I worked consistently up until 1999, and that's when I had my daughter. So I didn't work. That's why I took all those years off, is because I wanted to be mom. I didn't want to travel to Hong Kong or, you know, Indonesia or whatever to do a film. And yeah, to this day, I've never gotten it fixed. And I've had my doctor, you know, say, um, "I don't know how you could do what you do without an anterior cruciate ligament." And then they did an MRI. It's bone to bone, and there's no cartilage, and you know, he's like, it's a phenomenon. And then they did a test to find out why I could do what I could do, because most people without that can't even walk, because your knee won't stay
Yeah.
in place. And this is back like in the 90s. And they did this study on my knee, and they found out that my quads and my hamstrings were so strong that they hold my knee in place. And to this day, it's still like that. And I've been in, and I was like, well, maybe we should fix it. And they're like, no, you're doing great. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, okay.
Wow. No, the reason why I asked that was because I mean, in rugby and football, I've had a few friends that they've torn their ACL they can't walk, they're, bed rest, they can't move. And I'm reading and I'm like, Cynthia not only toured, but she went and movie now. And then in my head, I was like, oh, maybe she got it fixed after. But now you're saying, nah,
I
didn't
never
even
did.
fix
I
it.
said I'm out there fighting and doing movies with it without an anterior cruciate ligament in my right knee. And I figure maybe someday I'll do it if it comes to the point where I get to where like people are and they can't walk. And I mean, yeah, sometimes when I do these like major hikes, like when I hiked to Everest, my knee was pretty sore. But I think I have a high tolerance for pain. That's probably why I did so well in Hong Kong, is because I would get really hit really hard. I would get like, I remember getting a chain whipped on my nose swelled up, tears coming out of my eyes, but continued. I just I don't know. I think a lot of martial artists just deal with that, and they just like overcome it mentally, I guess it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one. So fast forward a few years, you've released a book called An Olympic Athlete's Journey to the Edge.
Okay, now we have to talk about that, because you mentioned that. I didn't do that book.
Did you not?
Oh, no. I mean, I might have done an article in it or a chapter or something, but it wasn't my book. I mean, the only book I've ever put out is George Chung and I did a book called Dynamic Kicks. But a lot of people have written books and had me write something in it. I'm thinking maybe.
Okay. Man, I'm sorry. That's my bad.
Yeah. So yeah.
Because I was doing research and perhaps because a lot of people, they try to, oh, Cynthia wrote this in this book. Let me Cynthia's book. Oh, okay, perhaps. But never mind. I'm sorry. That's my bad. So fast forward, so you become a parent. How much of a change is that? Because you're not just doing a regular 9 to 5. You're not just, you stay at one place, you go to one place. In the movie industry, everything is so, you may be like, it's like you said, like you were in Hong Kong, then you were here, then you were here, then you were here. What was that like mentally, especially?
Yeah. Well, when she was born, I think it was like maybe not even, she was a year old. I did Redemption with Don Wilson. And I just remember being on the set, waiting long hours all day, thinking, oh, I just want to be with my baby. I don't want to be on the set. So then I went home and then I started turning down things, saying no, because they were far away. And then a movie came along. My daughter she was 2. And we had to go to Puerto Rico, and I brought my mom. It was a movie called Outside the Law. I said, let me see if I could do this, because obviously I wasn't going to do a movie unless I felt my daughter can come and she's in a safe place, so it was a trial for me, and it worked out. My mom came and watched her. And then a lot of the offers coming were like, going foreign countries where I couldn't take her. And then she was in school. And they kind of frowned on taking her out of school and doing that. So literally, I kind of didn't do a lot of things until she became a teenager. When she became a teenager, I mean, my daughter was my world during that time. I mean, she was my 100% focus. And then she started getting older and didn't want to be with mom. And I was like brokenhearted. It's like, oh my God, she wanted to be with her friends. So at that point, which, we're looking at probably, I don't know, like in the 2010 or something like that. Then I was like, okay, I got to get back, to doing film again. But it was a little tough this time because I took all this year off and nobody heard of me, or, nobody, knew where I went or whatever. And, but that's why there's a big span, like all my movies from here. And then the other ones are like probably within the last, 8 years that I've kind of been back doing it. But that was the reason, well, she didn't want to be with mom. I'm going to have to go do movies again then.
My mom says the same thing to me. She's just like, well, now you don't want to be with me? I'm just like, huh? What? No, I just want to.
No, right? It's kind of traumatic for a parent when the child does that.
To all the parents out there, on the behalf of the children, we're sorry.
Well, I
So,
did it too, so I can't complain. I can't. I was like, okay, I've been there. With my mom. I moved to Hong Kong.
so, so in this is, I believe this heavily. I feel that in the entertainment industry, especially in movies, and you have so little spots with so many people who want that spot. And I feel as though that this industry has the most rejection. Like, you have, if you're going to a uni, you may apply to maybe 5 or 6 and 2 will say no. In this industry, you can audition for 100 and get rejected by 100. So how did you deal with rejection in as a whole? Like, I mean, knowing what you've said, I think I know how you fueled it into motivation, but what was those first few rejections like?
Well, I was lucky. I had a different path than most people, and
Mm.
I think I never did an audition probably until about 5 years ago. Was my first audition that I ever did. Um,
Wow.
so people would come to me to do movies, because they knew, from the market that my movie sold and they made money. So I never really had to do that. And even today, if someone wants me to audition, I really don't like it. I'm like, oh no, because I don't never did that, and what do you
Yeah.
do? I mean, it's like, I think, I auditioned twice, and one was it was a movie with Sally Field, and Kiefer Sutherland. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, I had to audition for this part and I got it. And then they said, "Oh, we want you to come in as a technical advisor too." So that was awesome. Then I did another one for a commercial and I didn't get it. And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't like going in for
Yeah.
auditions." And then I only did one other one. I think it was like an internet, and didn't hear anything. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's not a comfortable thing for me. It's kind of like, well, I've done 70 movies. You've seen me act, you've seen me fight, you kind of know what I could do. But,
Yeah.
maybe sometime the opportunity will come, like to be in an A-list or something. They go, well, yeah, you need to like read for this part. But I feel bad for all the people that really do go, because it is a big rejection, and you gotta realize that it's not just you, it might be, um, that it's not you. They might just be looking for a different look or something. And you I know a lot of actors, like young actors that are trying to get into the business. It's very depressing for them, and they go into like depression, or they think, oh my gosh, I don't have a audition today, what am I going to do? I'm like, well, life isn't all about that. You can't get depressed because you're not working. I remember I heard one of my friends said, "Oh, I hate weekends," and I was like, "Why?" And they go, "Because I can't go on auditions." And I was like, "Oh, me, I love what I do. I love doing movies, but I love life. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, hey, if I'm not working on that film, I'm going to go scuba diving, in the Maldives,
Climb
something."
Mount Everest.
So I think to people, it's like you got to have some other thing in your life as well. I mean, you have to focus on it and do it your homework. But yeah, it definitely, like you said, is probably the biggest rejection of any kind of field that you can go into is, doing movies, because like you said, you might have 1,000 people, going in for one part, and only one person's going to get it. And
Yeah.
it's not always the best person that gets it too. It isn't. So you just got to
Certainly.
keep doing it, keep pounding the pavement. If that's what you want. Like, you just keep going for it.
Yeah. No, certainly. I mean, I think people really, it's like what you said, right? If you make this whole thing your life, you're gonna be sad more than you are happy.
Yeah.
And that for everyone who wants to be in this industry, genuinely, you have to have other things, not in terms of make them your life, but things that you can do. So, when you're not in a movie, when you're not getting that audition, your brain is not like you're a failure, you're a failure, you're a failure. Like, no,
Yeah.
you've got more things.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Okay.
I have this friend, and I never forgot this, that he went on an audition, and it was for a martial art audition, and there was a line of people going down, and he said that the casting director just went, no, too tall, too short, yep, you're good, ugly, nope, too fat, and it was brutal. It was brutal. I don't think they could do that in this day and age, but I remember that. And then I remember my friend went in for a reading, and he was reading with Dennis Hopper. And
Mm.
Dennis, he went through all the steps. Now he's up there, and Dennis Hopper says, "Wow, that was great. I loved your performance." Right? And he was like, "Oh my God, Dennis Hopper is telling me he loves my performance." He goes, "But I
Yeah.
can't hear you." And he goes, "Why?" He goes, "Because you're too ugly." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I said, "He said that to you?" I mean, so you got to be a tough person. I mean, yeah, that literally happened to one of my friends in it. I don't think today, like nowadays, that was back like probably like in the early 90s, right? But we could, yeah, tough, 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 tough. If someone said to me, I think someone I went on it was an audition. It was like it was meeting someone that did a lot of movies, right?
Mm.
And big movies, little movies, and so I went, and he said, I wish I had a 20-year-old Cynthia Rothrock, and I was like, well, good luck. You're not going to find it, like it's that to me was like pissed me off, that he
Mm.
said that, and it's like, you're getting all these like young women like that like look great but can't fight, and that's why your movies don't make any money. I think I told him that too, and then I never heard from him again. Like he did, you know. Yeah, I mean, you deal with so much, like whether it's like age or gender or, you know, your look and stuff. It's tough. It's a tough thing. But what I could say is basically, if you want to do it, is like, especially if it's action, like really get in a good school, know your technique. Maybe go to a stunt school, go to an acting class for sure. Because nowadays you can't just get on there on your fighting. You have to have, be able to act. So just
Mm.
try to do your homework and perfect your craft as good as you can, so that gives you a little bit more advantage over maybe someone that might not be so skilled. But so many times on action movies, like people don't get it for who's the best skilled in the action, so you gotta bring a lot more to it.
Certainly, certainly. Okay, so we are approaching the last 10 minutes or so. So I've got one last question, and then we will talk about future plans. A very exciting one
Yeah.
in particular. So, so, as well, maybe two questions now that I think about it. So, as when you're in the moment doing something, especially when you're young, you don't have that maturity, you don't have the knowledge to be like, okay, I just need to relax, and every opportunity seems like, you know uh, i i I feel like, you know, let's say you experience A, you're like, oh, this is the worst thing. I've never done that. Then you go through A, and then now it's B. Oh, this is the worst thing. And it's just a cycle. So looking back on, I mean, all of the movies you've done, the one that you've got coming up, what would you say was your hardest moment mentally? The one that really got you feeling, wow, I don't know about that one.
Hmm. I think uh at one point I started questioning doing action movies, because I was doing this movie in Indonesia, and there was a scene where they had dry ice coming out of a pipe, and the actor, we're fighting, and he puts my head down in it, and as he did, this fire came out of it, and he saw it and I saw it, and I turned my face, but it burned the whole side of my hair, like fringed it like almost right off. And if he didn't do that and I didn't do that, it would have been my face and my whole career would have been messed up. So at that period of time, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get killed if I keep doing these kind of movies. So that was hard on me. After that, I've learned a lot about safety, like to make sure that, if there's something like that, like same thing in Hong Kong, I was doing a movie with another company and they said, you're not having your people that are here looking out for you, so you have to look out for yourself. And there's a scene, I think it's in Inspectors Wear Skirts, where you put a match, and I'm supposed to stand there with the match and watch the gasoline go up like that. And I said to the stunt coordinator, I said, hey, I said, can you do that for me? Can I see what it's going to be like? And they kind of looked at me like I was a baby, like, oh my God, we got to light it and then unlight it and do this. But something told me something's not right here. So the stunt guy did it. And all of a sudden, because of the wind, the fire came back, burned his eyebrows off, his hair and everything. And I was like, oh my God, if I wasn't, if that stunt person didn't tell me to be careful and watch that, that would have been me again. He had really bad burns on his face. So now when you see the movie, I light it and run back. I don't stay there to watch it because the wind was blowing the flames in. So I think they were like, that was like my hardest moments is like, watching out for safety on some like stunts that, like, because it was funny, and I always did like these strange stunts, and I was like, no, we didn't learn in martial arts school to jump off a 2-story building with a baby in our hand with an explosion behind, So yeah, as I look back, that was like the decisions, oh my God, am I going to do this? Am I not? I could get hurt, I could get killed, like many times that went through my head, like, oh, maybe. And then I'd be so beat up and go, that's the last movie I'm doing in Hong Kong. That's it. And then I'd heal up and I'd see that movie and go, when's the next one? What's the next one? Kind of a weird cycle, think I'm going to get killed. Yeah. So wait for the next one,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, my dad, he'd tell me, stories of just how, dangerous stunts are and how, one split second, in your instance, when you turned and, that 1 second can be the difference between life or death,
Yeah.
Wow. That must be scary. Like, just.
It was. I mean, like, and I'm crazy. I would do it. Like I remember there's this one scene, right? This one movie. I think it was in Righting Wrongs. They brought me really high up on the building, and I had to jump over to a high scaffold, right? Well, then I did that, but the stunt person did the fall completely. It's like it falls down. But they wanted me to look like I'm doing it. But I looked down, and we're looking at like hundreds of feet down, right? Like it was so far down that if I missed it, there were no safety pads. There was nothing there. I was like scared out of my mind. So when I jumped so fast, so hard, because I was so afraid that I would miss this platform that I overextended, almost went off the other way. And then they were just standing there catching me. I mean, to me, when you think about that, like, what if I didn't jump high enough? I would have just went down, no safety equipment or anything. It was scary. It was so scary, but I did it. But thank God, that my angels were with me all the time, because I think, in America, they would never have you do something like that. Or if there would definitely be, equipment there for you to, in case you fell.
Wow. Just, and for the people who are, younger, more, more born in like 2010s and stuff. Yeah, guys, what you see, especially in movies from the 70s, the 80s, it's different and it's dangerous, especially Hong Kong ones.
The 90s, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, It's insane. Like we were in the ending of Yes Madam, this guy fell from this building to a chandelier to a glass thing, and I remember a stunt guy from Sylvester Stallone's team said, how that was a dummy. I said, it was not. That was a real guy. I was there on set. That was a real guy that did that. They did not believe it. Like the stuntmen were going, oh my God. I was like, yep.
I completely understand why they would think that was fake.
Yeah, you got hurt too. You got hurt too doing it.
Oh, ooh. All right, last. I'm just my brain is
good memories of Hong Kong getting beat up. So not only did you beat up everybody, you got pretty beat up yourself.
My brain is just trying to process some of the things that happens in movies.
I think that is a book I'm going to write someday. Is my experiences in Hong Kong shooting.
Good, you really should. That itself can be a movie. So, last question before we touch upon the future. So, you're in the Black Belt Hall of Fame. You're in the International Sports Hall of Fame. You're, in all of these other, things that kids look and go, Mom, Dad, I want to be in that. I want to be in that. How did it, and if I'm not mistaken, the Black Belt Hall of Fame, Bruce Lee is in that as well. So what emotions do you feel to know that you've climbed the ladder? You're now in the place where people don't just call you, oh, this is a person. This is a person. You guys are seen as legends of your field. You're seen as inspiration. You guys motivate millions around the world. How does that feel to be there?
But it's like such a great accomplishment, especially like as a woman, because I was inducted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame probably 1981, I think, or 82. It's been a while. In the International Sports Hall of Fame, I was the first woman or man to be inducted into that by Dr. Bob Goldman and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So those two are like really, really tough. And then a couple of years ago, Black Belt Magazine gave me the Lifetime Achievement Award, first woman to get it. So again, breaking barriers. It's just nice to be recognized for all the work you've done, and staying consistent with the public, with the fans. Still doing what I love doing, and it's just to me. I feel like blessed. I guess that's the best word to say, blessed.
Yeah, that is incredible. I mean, sometimes I try to picture myself, maybe 30, 40 years from now. And, especially, my dad, he's a huge movie person. He's a huge, if there's anyone who knows everything about movies, I'd put my money on that guy.
Yeah.
And I've watched a lot of your shows, your movies coming up, and my dad's telling me all these things. And just to, even have you on the podcast and everything, I mean, it is such an honor. I'm truly so thankful for that you would be here. But before we wrap up, we have very exciting news. We have a movie coming out. Not we as in me, but it's announced on this podcast. Cynthia, would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, after doing about 70 movies, I finally decided to do my own movie, and I've always wanted to. I just was afraid to. It's such a, like your dad, it's not easy like doing that. And by the way, I loved working with your dad. He's phenomenal. But anyway, with my partner, he was like, you need to do your own movie. So, well, what do you want to do? I want to do a Western. A Western? What are you, crazy? I said, no, I want to. Why? A Western? Well, first of all, I love Westerns. And as a young girl, I always liked Annie Oakley, because I always saw Annie Oakley like, wow, here's this woman doing kind of what I'm doing in this man's world. And there weren't that many women, you Google female gunslingers, you get Annie Oakley or Selma Hayek, you know? So I'm like, oh, I want to be like one of the first female gunslingers that really does martial arts. So we put the story together. One of my dreams is that I wanted to have all my action friends in the movie and have a big cast of action stars. I wanted it to be different. I wanted to cross the two worlds of Western with martial arts, because most of the Westerns, you know, you have a punch here, kick here, that's it, but not full out, you know, fighting. And I wanted that to be different. So I incorporated into that. And one of the greatest things about this film is that I raised the money through crowd fundraising. So all the money for this movie came from the fans, you know, so I look at it like it's their movie too, and my movie. And we're just about finishing up. We just released the trailer. We're having a red carpet premiere in October. And I'm just so proud of everybody, because it was a 14-day shoot. That's all we had to do this movie, and very small budget. But I think for what, you know, like I said, you know, it's a blessing. I got the best team. James Marlowe, I call him my guardian angel. You know, he has like done so much for my film, and our music team is phenomenal. Like our colorist, our sound person, and it just feels like everybody came together and, you know, did this out of love. This movie, it wasn't so much like, oh yeah, well, yeah, I want all this money, I want all this money. It was just, you know, and I just been involved with it every step, you know, like making sure that there's no misses in the action,
Yeah.
you know, making sure everybody looks good. And I'm just so proud of it. And I'm so excited. I can't wait for it to come out, which I'm sure probably will finish up in like 2 weeks, and then we'll start shopping it, that, you know, it gets a worldwide distribution. And I'm just so excited to bring this to everybody, you know, and who knows me and knows that this has been my dream, you know, that what I accomplished in 2 weeks is, it to me, it's insane when I look at it. It's almost like when I look at my Hong Kong movies and go, that's insane, that fight scene I did. You know,
Yeah.
it's like insane that I pulled this together in a 2-week shoot, you know. So I'm really excited for everybody to see it, and they could watch the full length trailer now. And the funny thing about the trailer is that we were only edited not even half the film, so all the best fight scenes aren't even on the trailer. So
Yeah.
that's something else different, is that all the surprises and secrets and stuff is so much more in store for everybody, you know. And just like you said, I just thank all the fans, you know, for the support, because I wouldn't have done this movie if it wasn't for them. So it's special.
Yeah. No, I mean, so many trailers I've seen, they put all of the highlights in it, you know, to really
Almost every trailer. I think every trailer, you know, and then when
yeah.
you see the movie, you've seen all the fight scenes, you know, you saw the best things. But honestly, there's so much more to this movie. And I even go back and thinking, well, I wish, should we go back and edit some of this and this? And no, it's good. And then people will be, I think, more surprised when they see the film, because that, like I said, the
Yeah.
best surprises and you know, the fight scenes are still yet to be seen. So
Yeah.
that to me is exciting.
Oh, I can't wait to watch it. I know my dad and I will be watching it once we can. But ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for watching. Again, Cynthia, thank you so much for being on the show. I'll put the link to the trailer down in the description. Cynthia, for people who want to know more about you, who want to find you, who want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. I know it's like an older thing, but I know my daughter goes, Mom, Facebook. You know, like, I don't know. That's why I really chat to everybody.
Yeah.
But there's so many fake pages. There's like, there must be like 50 Cynthia Rothrock fake pages pretending to be me, but you'll know it's me because I post every single day. And it's Rothrock official. And then same thing for Instagram. For YouTube, it's Cynthia Rothrock channel. And I do go to Instagram. I do, you know, I dabble with that, but you know, the old school part of me is
Facebook.
you're on Facebook, and I try to answer. Like, a lot of people will say hi, and maybe I might not answer them, but if someone has a question, martial art question or whatever, I try to answer all the ones that I get to see. So yeah, very easily reachable.
Perfect. Well, guys, there's your answer on where to find her, and be careful for those fake fan pages.
I know they ask people for money saying it's me, and then there's like, I do not have a private fan page, so do not get fooled by that. And I mean, I was in England, I did an event there, and someone said, here's tickets for the event, and some guy bought it, and they said, okay, for $3,000 you can pick Cynthia Rothrock up at the airport and go out with her or something. And this guy paid this. I said, it's not me, it wasn't the promoter. So everybody got to be really careful out there. For some reason it's rampant now. Every day someone's like, this isn't you, this isn't you. So yeah, there's only that one page that I constantly will monitor. If it doesn't come from that page, it's not me. And I feel sorry for people that get scammed by these scammers, especially asking for money. I said, no, I will never ask anybody for money. That will not be me.
And she'll never ask to get picked up for $3,000.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So
thank you so much, Cynthia.
Yeah, thanks. It was so good to see you again. Hope to see you in person soon.
Hopefully soon.
Yes.